Jiho Kim wiped sweat from his brow as he walked down the gleaming hallway of the Galactic Concordate's main chamber. The walls shone with a metal unknown to humans until 30 years ago. The floor hummed with energy that came from stars humans had only just learned existed. As Earth's lead ambassador, Jiho had spent 5 years in these halls. 5 years of smiles that were not smiles. 5 years of jokes he was not supposed to understand. 5 years of being treated like a child who had wandered into a room full of adults. Today was no different. "Ah, the human arrives," called out Xylos, the blue-skinned Tellurian representative. His voice echoed in the large room where 20 alien species sat around a massive table. "We were just discussing the new trade routes through the Cygnus Arm. Routes that go nowhere near human space," thought Jiho. But he nodded politely. "Thank you for including me in this talk," he said, taking his seat. His chair was slightly too tall, making his feet dangle just a bit. Jiho knew this was not an accident. Just like it was not an accident that the air in the room was always a bit too thin for humans, or that the lighting hurt human eyes after a few hours. Small discomforts. Small reminders. "We were saying how remarkable it is that humans have managed to not destroy their new colony on Mars," said Zathor, a reptilian diplomat with scales that changed color with his mood. Right now they glowed a mocking orange. "Only 3 major air leaks this year. A new record, yes?" The room filled with the various sounds that counted as laughter among the different species. Some clicked, some hummed, some made no sound at all but pulsed with light. Jiho smiled. It was what humans always did here. Smile and wait for the joke to pass. "Thank you for your concern," Jiho said. "The Mars colony is doing well. We have almost 10,000 people living there now." 10,000, exclaimed Xylos, his 4 eyes blinking in an exaggerated way. "Why, that's almost as many as the maintenance staff at my summer home." More alien laughter filled the room. Jiho had learned to count in his head when this happened. 1, 2, 3. By the time he reached 20, the mocking would stop and they would move on to real business. The meeting went on for 3 hours. The aliens discussed technology trades, new scientific findings, and military agreements. Jiho took careful notes even though most of the conversation was about things humans were not allowed to know. "And what does Earth bring to our gathering today?" asked Xylos near the end of the meeting. It was a question he asked at every meeting, knowing full well that humans had little to offer that the Concordate would value. "We have increased our production of the rare earth metals you requested," Jiho said, looking at his tablet. "Lithium output is up 30%. We've also prepared a cultural exchange package that includes our latest music, art, and literature." A low hum of dismissive sounds filled the room. "How charming," said Xylos. "I'm sure someone will find your cultural items quite amusing. Perhaps they can be included in the Concordate Museum of Primitive Species Development." Jiho's hand tightened on his tablet, but his face remained calm. "We would be honored," he lied. Later, as Jiho walked back to the human quarters, he passed 2 Tellurians talking quietly. "Did you see how the human just sat there?" one said to the other. "Like a trained pet. They really have no pride, do they?" What would you expect from a species that took nearly 3,000 years to go from basic tools to space travel? The Krill did it in 500. We did it in 720. I heard the Council is considering giving them access to basic shield technology. Why? So they can break it? The only reason we let them join the Concordate is because their planet has useful minerals and they work hard, like clever animals. Jiho kept walking, pretending he didn't understand their language. But he understood. He understood all 6 of the major Concordate languages now. Most human diplomats did. The aliens didn't know this. They thought the translation devices were the only way humans could follow their conversations. That was their first mistake. Back in his private room, Jiho sent his daily report to Earth. He recorded everything he had heard, especially the things he wasn't supposed to hear. Then he opened a secure channel to Luna Base where Dr. Yuna Park was waiting. "Another productive day being laughed at?" asked Yuna. Her face on the screen looked tired. She had probably been working for 20 hours straight again. "The usual," Jiho replied. But I did get something useful. The Zathorians are having problems with their quantum shield generators. Something about phase alignment. Yuna's eyes lit up. That matches what we found in that broken ship part they let us have. Send me everything they said about it, even if it seemed unimportant. Jiho nodded and transferred the files. For 3 years they had been piecing together the secrets of alien technology from scraps, from offhand comments, from outdated equipment the aliens thought was safe to let humans see. How's the project coming? He asked. Yuna allowed herself a small smile. We had a breakthrough yesterday. Taewoo figured out the energy transfer principle in their FTL drives. We're still decades away from building our own, but now we know it's possible. We know which laws of physics we've been understanding wrong. They still think we're studying basic shield technology, Jiho said with a thin smile. Let them think that. Yuna leaned closer to the screen. I have to go. We're testing the new material composition today. If it works, we'll have something that can withstand temperatures the Concordate ships can't. After the call ended, Jiho stood by the window overlooking the vast Concordate space station. Thousands of alien ships came and went, a dance of light and power that still filled him with awe despite everything. Humanity had reached the stars only to find they were late to the party. 300 years late. The galaxy had been divided, up long ago. The powerful species had taken the best worlds, the richest resources, the most strategic locations. Humans were newcomers with outdated technology, and only one habitable planet to their name. The Concordate had let humans join out of what they called charity, but what was really a desire for cheap labor and Earth's rare minerals. They gave humans scraps of technology, just enough to make them useful. They allowed humans a tiny territory, just enough to make them feel included. And always, there was the mockery. The jokes about human biology, human history, human mistakes. The constant reminder that humans were the least important species in the room. Jiho touched the window, his fingers leaving marks on the perfect surface. Laugh while you can, he whispered. Then he returned to his desk and began another report, detailing the casual conversation he had accidentally overheard about the new Tellurian defense grid. Information that the Tellurians would never imagine a primitive human could understand or make use of. Small pieces, small details, a slow, patient gathering of knowledge that would one day change everything. The aliens thought 300 years of human backwardness meant humans would always be behind. They didn't understand that it also meant humans were used to catching up. The cosmic joke wasn't over, but one day, humans would deliver the punchline. 50 years passed like water flowing in a river, slow but steady. Admiral Sungmin Choi stood on the bridge of the ship called EHS Defiance. To anyone looking from outside, the ship looked like a simple mining vessel. It was big and blocky. Its hull was scratched and dented from years of work. No alien would look twice at it. That was exactly what humans wanted. Status report, Sungmin said. His voice was calm but firm. His second-in-command, Ha Jun, looked up from a glowing screen. The quantum drive is working at 143% of what we expected. The shields are stable, and our phantom system is working perfectly. The phantom system was the most important part. It made the ship look normal to alien scanners. It hid what was really inside. Good, Sungmin said. And the rest of the fleet? All 20 ships report ready, Ha-Jun said. They are hiding in the dust clouds of the Hera system. No alien ships have come close to finding them. Sungmin nodded and looked out at the stars. For 50 years, humans had been building, learning, and planning. Always in secret. Always with patience. The aliens still laughed at humans. They still treated Earth like a backward planet full of simple creatures. They still kept humans away from the best star systems and the newest technology, but they didn't know what was happening right under their noses. On Earth, President Zhu Wan Li stood before the hidden council of world leaders. Their meeting place was deep underground, safe from any alien spying technology. For 50 years we have smiled while they mocked us, she said. Her voice was strong despite her 70 years of age. We have bowed while they looked down on us. We have said thank you when they gave us scraps. She touched a button on the table before her. A large 3D map appeared in the air. It showed hundreds of secret human bases and ships spread across space. They think we are weak because we are patient, she continued. They are wrong. Our patience has been our strength. It has given us time. The leaders looked at the map with serious faces. They had all been part of the plan since they were young. Some had parents and grandparents who helped start it. Are we ready? Asked the leader of the African Union. Almost, Juwan answered. Dr. Yuna Park's team has made the final breakthrough. Our ships now have technology that even the Concordat doesn't have. This was the secret that humans had kept for half a century. While pretending to be simple and backward, they had been studying alien technology, taking it apart, understanding it, and then improving it. The aliens think they are thousands of years ahead of us, Juwan said. But they have become lazy. They have stopped looking for new ideas. They think they know everything worth knowing. She smiled at the other leaders. They were wrong. Dr. Yuna Park, now 83 years old but still sharp-minded, stood in her lab on Luna Base. The lab had grown from a small room to a massive complex. Hundreds of human scientists now worked there, studying alien technology. Test number 4032 is ready, said Tai Wu, her assistant of many years. He had gray hair now too. Yuna nodded. Begin the test. In the center of the room, a small device began to glow. It was no bigger than a coffee cup, but it contained enough energy to power a city for a year. The aliens had similar devices, but this one was different. This one was better. Energy output is stable, Taewoo reported, watching the readings on his screen. Efficiency is 62% higher than the Tellurian model. Yuna allowed herself a small smile. For decades, humans had been reverse engineering alien technology. At first, they just tried to understand it. Then they started to copy it. And finally, they began to improve it. The aliens had given humans only the most basic technology. They kept the best secrets for themselves. But humans were good at solving puzzles, they were good at finding patterns, and they were very, very good at learning from scraps. Send the data to the fleet, Yuna told Taewoo. They can install the new power cores immediately. As Taewoo left to send the message, Yuna looked at the glowing device. The aliens thought humans were too emotional, too impulsive, too simple to understand complex science. They never understood that human emotions, including anger at being mocked, could drive humans to achieve amazing things. Jiho Kim, now an old man with white hair, sat in his home in Seoul. He had retired from his ambassador role 10 years ago, but he still served the plan. A young woman named Yoonji sat across from him. She was the new head diplomat for Earth. They still see us the same way, Yoonji said with frustration. I've been ambassador for 5 years, and they still treat me like I'm a child who wandered into the wrong room. Jiho nodded. He remembered that feeling well. And what does that tell you? That they haven't noticed anything, Yoonji said. They haven't realized that we've been building a fleet, that we've been improving their technology, that we're not the same humans they met 50 years ago. Good, Jiho said. Their blindness is our advantage. He picked up a small device from his table and pressed a button. A 3D image appeared, showing the current positions of all Concordat fleets and bases. They think their military movements are secret, Jiho said. But we've been watching them for decades. We know where every ship is. We know how their defenses work. We know their weaknesses. Is it enough? Yoonji asked. They still have more ships than us, more worlds, more resources. Jiho smiled. They have quantity, we have quality, and we have surprise. He leaned forward. More importantly, we understand something they don't. What's that? The value of working together, Jiho said. The Concordat species compete with each other. They keep secrets from each other. They only work together when they have to. Jiho pointed to another image, showing human ships hidden throughout space. Humans have united like never before, he said. Every country, every colony, working toward one goal. While they mock us, we grow stronger. While they laugh, we prepare. Yunji looked at the old man with respect. How did you stay patient for so long? How did you bear their mockery year after year? Jiho was quiet for a moment. I remembered something my grandfather told me, he finally said. He fought in a war when Korea was invaded. The enemy was stronger, better armed. They thought Koreans were weak, but my grandfather's unit held a mountain pass for 3 days against a much larger force. Jiho's eyes were distant with memory. When I asked him how they did it, he said, when people think you are weak, they become careless. When they mock you, they stop seeing you clearly. Their contempt becomes a blindfold they put on themselves. Jiho looked at Yunji with determination in his old eyes. For 50 years, we have let the aliens wear that blindfold. Soon, very soon, we will remove it, and they will finally see us as we truly are. Across human space, the secret fleet was almost ready. The new technologies were being installed. The hidden bases were fully operational. 300 years of being mocked. 50 years of silent preparation. The aliens thought human patience was weakness. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The grand hall of the Galactic Concordat shone with light from 1,000 glowing panels. 200 alien representatives sat in curved rows, talking among themselves. They discussed trade deals, border disputes, and new scientific findings. Supreme. Minister Xylos, now old but still powerful, sat at the center. His blue skin had faded to a pale gray with age, but his 4 eyes were still sharp and full of pride. Suddenly, a loud alarm filled the room. Red lights flashed on all the walls. What is happening? Xylos demanded, rising from his seat. A Zathorian officer rushed into the room. Minister, we've lost contact with the Vexillor mining colony. Xylos waved a hand dismissively. A communication problem, nothing more. No, sir, the officer said, his scales turning a worried purple. We've also lost contact with 3 more colonies, and now a dozen more. Murmurs of concern spread through the hall. The Vexillor colony was one of the richest mining operations in Concordat space. It produced metals that were vital for building ships and weapons. This is ridiculous, Xylos said. Check the communication buoys, they must be malfunctioning. We did, sir. The buoys are working perfectly. The colonies simply aren't responding. Then it must be those human workers, Xylos said with a sneer. They've probably broken something important again. Send a fleet to check. Before he could finish, every screen in the hall suddenly turned on by itself. The communication system that was supposed to be completely secure had been taken over. An old human face appeared on all the screens. It was Jiho Kim. The aliens in the hall fell silent with shock. No one should have been able to break into their secure network. Especially not a human. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Concordat, Jiho said, his voice calm and clear. For 3 centuries, humanity has endured your mockery, your unfair rules, and your contempt. We have been patient. We have been respectful. We have followed your rules, even when they were unjust. Jiho's eyes hardened. That ends today. The screens changed to show the missing mining colonies. They were not destroyed. They were intact. But surrounding each colony were ships of a design no one in the hall had ever seen before. They were sleek and dark, with no visible engines or weapons. Yet somehow everyone knew they were powerful. Human ships. We have disabled your colonies, not destroyed them. Jiho continued as the images showed alien workers inside the colonies, unharmed but clearly under human control. We have contained your people, not harmed them. This is not an act of war, it is a demonstration. Humanity will no longer accept being treated as lesser beings in this galaxy. Xylos rose to his feet, his face twisted with anger. This is terrorism. The human systems will be blockaded immediately. Their colonies will be quarantined. Jiho smiled slightly. I'm afraid you misunderstand the situation, Minister Xylos. We don't need your trade routes anymore. We don't fear your military. And as for quarantine, the screens changed again. Now they showed human ships appearing in the home systems of every Concordat member race. The ships had somehow bypassed all detection systems, all defense grids. We've been there all along, Jiho said quietly. You just didn't notice us, you were too busy laughing. In orbit around the Tellurian homeworld, Admiral Sung-Min Choi stood on the bridge of the EHS Defiance. The ship had dropped its disguise. Now it appeared as it truly was, a warship unlike anything the Concordat had ever built. The Tellurians are launching their defense fleet, Hajun reported from his station. Let them come, Sung-Min said calmly. But take no aggressive action. Remember our orders. On the main screen, they could see 50 Tellurian warships rising from the planet. They were large and heavily armed, painted with bright colors that showed their pride and power. Pride that was about to be tested. They're charging weapons, Hajun said. Activate shields, Sung-Min ordered. But do not return fire unless I give the command. The Tellurian ships fired. Beams of energy shot across space toward the human vessels and passed right through them. Phase shift successful, Hajun reported with a small smile. Their weapons cannot touch us. The Tellurian ships fired again and again. Each time their energy beams passed harmlessly through the human ships. It was as if the human vessels were ghosts, not fully in the same space as the Tellurian weapons. They're trying to call for help from other Concordat fleets, Hajun said. Let them, Sung-Min replied. They'll find that their allies are equally busy. Across Concordat space, the scene was repeating. Human ships had appeared in every major system. Alien defense fleets launched, alien weapons fired, and nothing happened to the human ships. 50 years of secret work had paid off. Humans had not just caught up to alien technology, they had moved beyond it. In her office on Luna Base, Dr. Yuna Park watched the events unfold on multiple screens. Though her body was old, her mind was still sharp. She felt a deep satisfaction seeing the technology her team had developed working perfectly. The phase shield is holding at all locations, Tae-woo reported. The quantum communication network is secure. The Concordat cannot jam our signals. And our people on the colonies? Yuna asked. All report success. The mining colonies are under our control. No casualties on either side. Yuna nodded with approval. That had been a key part of the plan. No killing. This was not revenge. This was not war. This was a statement. What about their countermeasures? She asked. Tae-woo checked his screens. They're trying to adapt their weapons to penetrate our shields. It will take them weeks to figure out how. By then, we'll have moved to the next phase. Yuna turned to look at a large map showing the positions of all human and alien ships. Across the galaxy, the balance of power had shifted in a single day. After all these years, she said softly, they still don't understand humans, do they? No. Tae-woo agreed. They thought our emotions made us weak. They never realized our emotions make us strong. Back in the Concordat Hall, chaos had erupted. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate military action against Earth. Others called for negotiation. Supreme Minister Xylos struggled to restore order. Silence, he finally shouted. We will crush this human rebellion. We will bring the full might of the Concordat against them. And how will you do that? Came Jiho's voice from the screens. When you cannot even touch our ships? When we control your most important mining colonies? When we are already in your home systems? This is impossible, Xylos spat. Humans are centuries behind us in technology. We were, Jiho agreed. But we learn quickly, especially when we have good reason to learn. The screens changed again, showing Yoonji, the new human ambassador, standing in what appeared to be a control room. The Galactic Concordat will receive our terms in one standard day, she said. Until then, we suggest you consider your position carefully. The screens went dark. In the sudden silence, a young Tellurian aide leaned toward Xylos and whispered, Sir, how did they do this? How did they advance so quickly without us knowing? Xylos had no answer. For the first time in his long life, he felt fear when he thought about humans. Across the galaxy, the message was clear. Humanity's patience had finally run out. The species that had been mocked for centuries had been silently growing stronger. And now, the cosmic joke had a new punchline. One day after the human ships appeared throughout concordate space, the alien leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. The grand hall was no longer filled with casual talk and laughter. Now, fear and anger filled the air. Supreme Minister Xylos looked older than he had just a day before. His blue skin had turned an even paler shade of gray. His hands shook slightly as he called the meeting to order. "Our military response has failed," he admitted with clear pain in his voice. "Our weapons cannot harm their ships. Our communication systems are still compromised. Our intelligence reports suggest human presence in locations that should be impossible for them to reach." "How did this happen?" demanded the Zathorian representative, his scales a deep red with anger. "How did humans advance so far without us knowing?" Before Xylos could answer, the screens in the hall came to life again. This time, they showed an elderly human woman with white hair and sharp eyes. Next to her stood Unji, the human ambassador. "I am Dr. Una Park, Director of Human Technological Advancement," the woman said. Her voice was strong despite her age. "I believe I can answer your question." Xylos clenched his fists but nodded for her to continue. "While you dismissed us as primitive, we were studying you," Una explained. "While you mocked our scientists, we were solving problems your civilizations had given up on long ago. You gave us scraps of your technology, thinking we could never understand its true principles." She pressed a button, and the screens showed complex equations and diagrams. They revealed the fundamental physics breakthroughs humans had achieved in secret. "You believed that because it took your species thousands of years to develop these technologies, we would need the same amount of time," Una continued. "You failed to consider that necessity and the desire to be treated with respect are powerful motivators for humans." Yunji stepped forward. "For centuries, we have watched you exploit weaker species, hoard resources, and maintain a system where you keep yourselves at the top. You claimed it was the natural order of things. We have proven otherwise." The Tellurian High Commander rose from his seat, his four eyes narrowed with hatred. "If you humans think we will surrender to primitives," Yunji cut him off. "We don't want your surrender. We don't want revenge. We want change." She gestured, and the screen showed a new document. It was called the Galactic Concordance, a new treaty that would replace the old Concordat. "This treaty establishes equal rights for all intelligent species," Yunji explained. "It ensures shared technological development and fair representation for all. No more will the older species dominate the younger ones. No more will any world be exploited for its resources without fair payment." She looked directly at Xylos. "You have one standard week to consider these terms. During this time, we will continue to hold your strategic assets." The screens went dark again. Silence filled the hall for several long moments. Then, the shouting began. Admiral Sungmin Choi walked through the corridors of the largest Tellurian mining colony. Human soldiers stood guard at key points, but they were under strict orders not to threaten or harm the alien workers. The Tellurian mine manager, Zex Tor, walked beside him. The alien was taller than Sungmin, with 4 arms and blue skin that had turned pale with stress. "Your people are being treated well?" Sungmin asked. "Yes," Sextor admitted reluctantly. "But they are confused. We all are. Yesterday, humans were insignificant. Today, you control our most important mining operation." Sungmin nodded. "I understand the shock. But perhaps now you can understand how we felt, being treated as insignificant for so long." They reached a large window overlooking the mining operation. Below, alien workers continued their tasks, supervised by a few human technicians. "We could have killed your people," Sungmin said quietly. "We could have destroyed your ships. We could have bombed your worlds. That's what you would have done in our place, isn't it?" Sextor didn't answer, but his silence was answer enough. But that is not the human way, Sungmin continued. At least not the way we choose to be. We want a galaxy where all species work, together. Where knowledge is shared. Where no one is mocked for being different. The Concordat will never accept this, Zextor said. We, have ruled space for too long to change now. Sungmin smiled slightly. You might be surprised. Already some of your people are asking questions. Younger Tellurians. The ones who always felt uncomfortable with how the Concordat treated other species. He turned to look at the alien. Change is coming, Zextor. You can be part of it or you can fight it. But it is coming. On Earth, President Juwan Lee addressed the people of humanity. Her image was broadcast to every human settlement, from the crowded cities of Earth to the smallest outposts on distant moons. Today marks a new chapter in human history, she said. For 3 centuries we endured the mockery and unfair treatment of the Galactic Concordat. We worked within their rules. We showed patience that they mistook for weakness. She stood tall despite her years. But humans are not weak. We are not primitive. We simply understand something that the older species have forgotten. That true strength comes from working together, from sharing knowledge, from respecting all forms of life. Around her stood representatives from every nation on Earth and every human colony. They formed a circle of unity that had once seemed impossible. The next week will be difficult, Juwan warned. The Concordat may still choose conflict over cooperation. If they do, we are ready. But we truly hope, that today marks the beginning of a new kind of relationship between all intelligent species. Back in the Concordat Hall, the arguments had been going on for hours. Some representatives called for all-out war against humans, no matter the cost. Others pointed out that such a war could not be won, not against ships their weapons couldn't touch. And a few, a growing number, suggested that perhaps the humans were right. Perhaps the Concordat had become too proud, too set in its ways. A young Zathorian named Krilva finally rose to speak. Her scales were the green of new ideas. I have studied human history, she said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried across the now silent hall. They are a strange species. They fight among themselves, then unite against outside threats. They can be cruel, then surprisingly kind. They destroy their environment, then work to save it. She looked around at the other representatives. But there is one thing about humans that we should all understand. When they unite behind a cause, they are unstoppable, not because they are stronger or smarter than us, but because they are willing to change, to adapt, to become better than they were. Krilva pointed to the now dark screens where the human treaty had been displayed. Perhaps it is time for us to learn that skill as well. Supreme Minister Xylos looked at her with anger, but he did not interrupt. For the first time in his long life, he had no easy answers, no sense of superiority to fall back on. Across Concordat space, the balance of power had shifted. The species that had ruled for thousands of years now faced a choice: adapt to a new reality, or fight a war they might not win. And the humans, once mocked as primitive and emotional, waited for their answer. The revelation was complete. Humanity had not just caught up to the Concordat. In some ways they had surpassed it, not just in technology but in vision, in the ability to imagine a different kind of future. The joke that had lasted for centuries was finally over. One by one, the species of the Concordat signed the new treaty. Some did so with anger in their eyes. Others signed with relief, especially the younger members and the smaller species who had also felt the weight of the old system. On the 7th day, in a ceremony watched across thousands of worlds, Supreme Minister Xylos added his signature to the Galactic Concordance. His hand shook slightly, but his face showed no emotion as he pressed his palm to the document. "It is done," he said simply. The Great Hall was different now. The curved rows where the powerful species had once sat were gone. In their place was a round table with seats of equal height and equal distance from the center. No species would sit above another. No voice would matter more than another. Jiho Kim, Una Park, and Admiral Sungmin Choi stood together at the back of the hall, watching. They were all in their final years now, their hair white, their bodies bent with age, but their eyes were bright with the satisfaction of seeing their life's work completed. "Did you ever doubt?" asked a young human reporter named Jin who had been allowed to record the historic moment. Jiho smiled faintly. "Every day. Patience is not the absence of doubt or anger. It is the mastery of both." Yuna nodded. "They mocked us for being emotional, for being unpredictable, for being human. They never understood that these were our strengths." As the new Galactic Council took their seats for the first time, representatives from all species, including several that had been kept out of the old Concordat, began to speak. Their voices were cautious at first, then growing more confident, as they realized that this time they would be heard. "We could have destroyed them," Jin said, looking at the alien representatives. "After all they did to us, all the ways they laughed at us and kept us down, we could have taken revenge." "Yes," Sungmin agreed. "By their own rules of power they would have deserved it, but then we would have become what they were." He gestured to the diverse gathering where former enemies now engaged in actual conversation rather than just giving orders. "This is humanity's true victory," he said quietly. "Not that we made them fear us, but that we made them listen. Not that we conquered the galaxy, but that we changed it." Later that day, a surprise visitor approached the three elderly humans. It was Xylos, no longer Supreme Minister, but now just one representative among equals. Age had finally bent his tall frame, and perhaps it had also bent his pride. "I never understood your species," he admitted, looking at Jiho. "Even now, after you had us at your mercy, you choose cooperation over domination." Jiho studied the alien he had once feared and resented for so many years. "Perhaps next time you meet a species that seems primitive or emotional or different," he said, "you will consider the possibility that they might see something you don't." Xylos was quiet for a moment. "The young ones adapt more easily than we elders. They see the opportunities in this new arrangement. They are already talking about joint research projects with humans." He sounded both proud and troubled by this. "And what about you?" Yuna asked. "Can you adapt?" "I am trying," Xylos said. "It is not easy to unlearn the lessons of 1,000 years." "No," Sungmin agreed. "But it is possible. We humans have had to unlearn many things about ourselves over our history." Xylos looked at the three humans with new eyes. Not the eyes of a superior being looking down at lessers, but the eyes of someone seeing equals for the first time. "There is one thing I still do not understand," he said. "How did you maintain such unity of purpose for so long? 50 years of secret preparation, 3 generations working toward a single goal. Our intelligence reports always told us that humans were divided, competitive with each other." Jiho smiled. "We are those things, but we are also capable of working together when it matters, of seeing beyond our differences to what unites us." "And what unites humans?" Xylos asked. "Hope," Yuna said simply. "Hope for a better future. For our children. For all intelligent life." 1 month later, on a newly established neutral space station that served as the headquarters for the Galactic Council, Yunji welcomed representatives from a newly discovered intelligent species. They were insect-like beings from a world at the edge of known space. "Welcome to the Galactic Council," she said, bowing slightly to the nervous newcomers. "Here, all species are equal. All voices matter. We hope you will join us in building a better future for everyone who looks to the stars with wonder." The new species leader extended 4 of his 6 limbs in a gesture of greeting. "We were afraid when we detected your ships," he admitted. "Our scientists said that older spacefaring species often destroy or enslave younger ones. That was the old way," Yunji said. "We have chosen a different path." Later, as she walked back to her office, she passed 2 young aliens, a Tellurian and a Zathorian, deep in conversation with a human scientist. They were discussing a new type of engine that might make travel between galaxies possible someday. Yunji smiled to herself. This was what Jiho, Yuna, and Sung Min had worked for. All those years, not domination, not revenge, but the chance for all intelligent beings to work together, to learn from each other, to reach higher than any one species could alone. Back on Earth, in a small garden in Seoul, Ji-ho Kim sat watching the sunset. His body was failing now, but his mind was still clear. On a small screen nearby, he could see the latest reports from the Galactic Council, new treaties, new discoveries, new friendships forming between species that once would have looked at each other with contempt. A young assistant brought him tea. "Any news from Ambassador Yoonji today?" she asked. "Yes," Ji-ho said with a small smile. "The Zathorians have proposed a joint research project with humans and Tellurians, something that would have been unthinkable a year ago." "It's all happening so fast," the assistant remarked. "Change always does once it truly begins," Ji-ho said. He looked up at the darkening sky where the first stars were becoming visible. For centuries they mocked us, our emotions, our unpredictability, our stubbornness. He chuckled softly. They never realized those were the very things that would change the galaxy. Across human space, people celebrated the dawn of a new era. The species that had been the cosmic joke had rewritten the punchline. Humanity's patience had finally snapped, not into violence or revenge, but into a new vision for what the galaxy could become, and the stars themselves seemed brighter for it.